Right, so welcome back. We're here for another week on the charts. This week's going to be a live one where I'm going to go through certain parts of my life as well, along with the trades and the limits that I've set at the start of the week. Very, very early into this week, Monday morning. I'm about to head on a call with Fund and Rock. You guys will see a little clip from that, but definitely head on. I mean, Monday to Wednesday, 8:30 to 9:30 UK time. Perfect opportunity to come and ask me questions because I know there's so many guys that have questions on my channel and it's better for me to answer them live. So yeah, head on to that, learn a lot from there, and even just get involved in the community is a really good place to be. Let's get into my breakdown for the week and then we'll go on to what I'm doing today. We're heading into quite an interesting week down to the fact my bias on euro dollar and pound dollar is slightly different. I'm going to talk through what that is. As we come onto the weekly time frame, we can see that we've been chopping sideways and we've cleared two higher time frame weekly liquidity points. We've got a load of liquidity stacking up here as well, and then we still have August low down there. What we saw last week, and don't get me wrong, I'm still bullish on EU because what I can see them in on the daily time frame is we build up this liquidity here, and this is what helped us then push up and take out the current yearly highs, which made new yearly highs now, that we're currently looking at retesting if we get a pullback. But what I want to see the week do is I want to see it come down a bit and into some area of liquidity to give us a buy. I'm waiting for a daily confirmation candle after maybe the start of the week drops. That's my only shot. If I'm going to sell, I'll probably wait till next week. And the reason being is I really would like to see price run up and reject again and start to break higher low structure that we've been forming here. That would give me the idea that maybe we can play steeper sells, but I think the euro is pretty strong at the minute. Dollar's not looking the strongest still. We're seeing the rate cuts coming in. So I think that the bias is still bullish on this. We still haven't seen any structural breaks. We do have a lot of liquidity. So that's my idea on EU. And as we go into GU, it's slightly different. And I do have two higher time frame sell positions set. Now, I'm really banking because the dollar's not strong by any means. I'm banking on the fact, this is the daily time frame right now, that there's a lot of uncertainty with government debt, and the budget that's coming out in probably about 6 weeks is not looking good at all. And I just think from that, we aren't going to come and test these highs, which is from June. And we haven't really gone anywhere. We've stayed in this range. I think the pound's looking weak, and so is the dollar. It really comes down to which one's going to be weaker coming into this week. So my weekly idea, and I think you can see what's happened here. So I had this as a target down here. We didn't test this low, at least it didn't on my chart. We pulled back. There's that weekly fill, and I've spoken about this many times, and we've tapped it 5 times, and we've actually seen a rejection off it now for the first time. We engulfed the previous week. I'm looking for pullbacks for continuations down. Now, I am still targeting these lows because that's just the way I trade, and I'm a higher time frame trader. This big wick rejected in the daily time frame, and I spoke about the build up of liquidity here. We had a lot of liquidity sitting here. After filling that such a higher time frame area, the fact that we've just rejected off it to me is significant. We've closed back in this area. The weekly's looking really strong, and I will be buying if we do get weekly closures back above here. But for the minute, I'm still bearish on GU, and I'm really just banking on the fact that we can get pullbacks at the start of the week. One really being at this daily fill, got marked up, which is around here, and then a second position higher up within this daily fair value gap if we do get a retest of that weekly POI again, being that fill. I'm really not looking for price to come into higher areas because we formed this big wick and then price the next day came into this wick and then fell. So I don't think price needs to come and revisit 136,500. I think we're good to go down. That's my idea for this week. What we could do is present the sells on GU and a buy on EU. Anyone asking, I will take both because I know there's sometimes in my strategy that I'm taking inverse positions and normally one of them loses, but not always. Generally, one of them does. I just need to take the trades that's out for me in a minute and really just bank on the fact that the pound is looking pretty weak now. And it's a significant thing because we built up a very, very higher time frame liquidity point here that never got swept. This here as well has not been tested. To me, it's waiting for that opportunity to retest and drop. Yeah, we might fail at this and then go back up, but that will be for me to be seen. For the minute, I'm playing that bigger move. So yeah, we'll see what happens here. But look, if these trades come in, especially them both being at 6R, I will claw back a lot of my losses, and that's really the way I trade. I've got to wait for that big shot. I've waited 6-7 weeks for this play, though. I've been bearish the whole time since here, and I've just took a few losses, but I am waiting for that sell. I've been very patient, and if it comes in, it'll be well-deserved, I think, because I haven't been as consistent and clinical on EU. Now let's go to Fund and Rock and see what we've got going on there in the morning.
You don't just open up a casino or something like that and suddenly starts making loads of money. I think there's a bit of a time where it's, you know, you go
Can imagine. Could be
drawdown. Going to drawdown, as you could say. And then eventually the statistic starts running and starts working. And then obviously it starts playing out. But it's all about just letting the stats run. Like I think on roulette, I think it is, you've got like a point, they've got like a 0.1 or 0.2 edge.
Roulette, the edge is that green. 1 or 2 greens. That's what gives them that small edge.
Exactly. That one
thing.
Position changes the edge into their favour. That one position, which is putting it on green, which is insane.
Really solid run this morning. Hit a 14 miler. So what I'm trying to do at the minute is still hitting that 5k PB, and I've been trying to get it all year, and every time something's happened and got in the way. I wanted it by the end of Q3. What ended up happening was I got a really bad tooth infection that wrote me off for like 2 weeks. Just put the plan back a few more weeks. I'm really just pushing on now. So what I love to do after a long run is normally that's done in the morning, and in the afternoon I always look to do some kind of gym session. For the legs, more recovery. So I just did some bodyweight lunges, walking on them about 4 sets. Then just went on to do a little bit of arms just to get some kind of pump in. And that's really it to finish off the day. So I highly recommend that. If you do a long run, hit some legs. Makes a huge difference. All right, so we've got a nice little entry on GU today. We have just seen that daily fill, which we kind of formed yesterday. So we haven't come up into the higher one. But that's where my first position idea was, to see if we can get a small top wick for the week and continue. The only reason why I wasn't going necessarily higher position only was because I wasn't expecting a huge pullback for the week. You've got to remember, this pullback has already been 65 pips with such a big previous weekly candle. If we're going to go down, we shouldn't need to make too much of a top wick. And really, we should be now looking to fill these previous wicks to the downside and continue down. So we've got a power speech later on today, which I'm going to be looking out for. You can see it's a bit of a monster move. And we are going to pass this phase 1, fund and rock, if we do get to that price level, which is before TP. And to be fair, the challenge is if this trade comes in, I'll be going from minus 4.5% and minus 8%. These will both be up about 5-6%. So it'll be a really good opportunity to get them back into profit. And it will be a long hold. We've got the FTMOs tagged in as well, which are in drawdown. But because of this move being such a big R, you've got to think if this comes through, it will put me into profit and I'll get payouts, which has been a long wait as well. But we've just got to take the trades that we take off the strategy, see what happens, and we'll go into the rest of the week. And I'll keep you updated on this trade. If we do take any more trades, maybe on EU, which we probably won't. Or if we get to stop down this first position and have to wait for the second position to get tagged in a bit later on. All the options are there. See you guys later in the week. Let's go, guys. Thursday morning, we are seeing London session open. Let's have a look at how we're doing, because all I'm seeing on the weekly at the minute on EU, and I've kind of looked back and seeing why we've had a top wick, failed to fill this wick, and price really there at that point was the pullback that formed this overall August low. I think that could be a liquidity point. I'm going to put that in. And I'm now looking to see this liquidity get swept. I think it's just clear as day now. You've had the high, you've had the lower high. Price there with that line broke the higher low. So we've seen start of the week go up, potentially form a top wick. Now we're going to see price run into this area. I'm going to wait till next week to take a trade though, because I'm not yet really confident that I can play to a low, because the only low at the minute is this low, and I don't want to see a further low be made first. GU's a lot going on. We had the entry on Tuesday. We've seen price continue down a little bit, which is nice. Create a further lower low and a lower high from the highs that we would be expecting when price filled this area earlier in the week. We would have been expecting price to run up from there. If we were going to go test this high, we should not have been engulfing this daily POI. And we do have this order block here. I know that's an area of interest. Yet price tapped it yesterday, 50% of it, and still closed very strong to the downside. So I'm looking at further sells today. A more medium time frame play, playing down to this low, which was from the start of this month. Really looking for the monthly to flip then in that case, which will be pretty significant for the month. My overall idea on the 1 hour, we're going to mark it in. This is my 1 hour leg from Tuesday's high. I'm looking for a retracement. We've got the 50% here with the imbalance fill on the daily. I'm looking for a move slightly lower. What I liked in here was on the 1 hour, we created a small FEG. Price came into it, didn't quite fill it, just missed it. So I'm looking at that being our inducement to then sell back into that low. Really expecting that this is a small pullback, we can get tagged in and then drop. If not, it's fine, but I'm looking to scale into this position because I feel confident on it and it's just a clear setup for me. So I've just got to take them opportunities and we'll see what happens this week. But downside is looking a lot stronger. Like I spoke about at the start of the week, we need to see the candles start to the upside to give us that wick rather than rejecting the downside first. That does make a huge difference, but it could be a really, really nice week here if we do get tagged in. Let's see how we're looking at the end of the week. Now here, Thursday night, and something I like to do every week is sit and digest the week. At this point, being very close to the end of the week, but still have a day left, where the market can still move, but I need to think about everything that I've done from the week. From, was my bias right for the week? Did I take the right trades? Did I set up? Or did I break any rules? All these different things have to be reflected on at some point. The weekend's fine for that, but I like to do it in the same week because now it's still happening. What I want to discuss, because it's such a pivotal time for my prop firm journey, really now, is probably the most important than it's ever been, even though at times before it's felt very important. I've been on a massive losing streak. I'm in 600k's worth of drawdown on funded prop firms between the ranges of 1.75 drawdown and 8% drawdown, being the 10% max loss. I've got 3 challenges on the go, all 200k's. One I've just started and I'm in profit now, but that was at 0. One was at minus 4.5, and one was at minus 8%, just like the funded. This point in the week, the next trade that was taken, obviously going into this week, was probably the most important trade I've ever taken. What I can't do with that trade is have a predisposition to whether that trade is going to win or not, which is very difficult to do. And what has enabled me to have that concrete mindset is the more I lose, generally, the more I think the next trade is going to win. And the more I win, the more I'm in fear of the next trade losing, which is, I think, a great mindset to adopt because you can't be overconfident when you're winning and you can't go off the rails when you're losing. So having that middle ground is very important. That straight up works really well for me. When it comes to this trade and the trade that I set up this morning that I showed you, that didn't come in by about 2 pips. That would have now hit TP, which would have put me in an amazing spot because I would have bagged the win and I would have had then this trade running now. It's about 3.5 hour. That trade, I can't decide whether it's going to win, which is very, very difficult. So I've just missed the move. When I look back, I set the nearest entry point I could have, and therefore wouldn't have caught that in the back testing. So I'm not worried about that whatsoever. That's a trade limit that's now taken off for the end of the day, London close, and I go again. So I'm in a great position now where I've got the bias right. I was bearish on EU and GU this week. I was waiting for the EU bias to set up, so I wasn't going to trade unless we saw downside first for the buys, which didn't happen. GU played out perfectly. I've caught the top wick of the week by about 5 to 10 pips. It's just dropped 200 pips plus from that point, which is the first trade I've potentially got right in a while. But the way I trade so high a time frame is I could sit in this trade next week, still couldn't hit TP. How as a trader, when you're in such big drawdown and you start seeing profits of, on some accounts, 11, 12k, how do you not close out that position? The way I like to view it is that profit's nice to look at here and there on the MetaTrader or C-Trader until you actually secure that profit and that part of your analysis is played out, it's not yours to take. Very easy for me to say that as a trader that only exits position on very certain criteria and is probably about 5% of my trades. For a normal trader that likes to go break even or get out at a certain point based on certain things, it's a little bit different, or if you close partials. That's why I've got the rules that I've got, and that's why I don't tell you to have the same rules that I've got, but find your own style, because I don't have the same personality as a lot of you guys. You guys have certain triggers that I don't, and vice versa. We need to understand ourselves, and that's really what I'm trying to get to, and being the most important thing, that create throughout the week that plan that you stick to, that you can reflect on, and go again. And now I'm just looking forward to the rest of the week, and I'm going to be holding trades more than likely into next week. I already knew that when setting up the position. And it's weird sometimes how it goes when I've had maybe the biggest drawdown streak ever, when I could go into next week and hit TPs for the biggest win I've ever taken on my strategy so far with prop firms, which would give me amazing results and really help with me progressing into mitigating that Q3 drawdown and then push on into Q4. Bring on Q4, that's all I'm going to say. So many opportunities for this quarter. And this is the thing, I don't care if I have a bad quarter, because relative to the good quarters, that's what matters. And I'm such a long-term thinker that it doesn't bother me. That's probably another area where so many traders are going wrong because there's too short-term thinking. They're worried about having a profitable week. That shit don't matter at all. Doesn't even matter if you don't have a profitable month. And I say this all the time, but people don't want to listen, and they go through the cycle of getting funded, blowing account, getting funded, blowing account. Whereas I'm just steadily gaining capital, and over time, hopefully, will continue to get more funding and not blow funded accounts. To me, that approach is way more sustainable. I don't care whether I lose 200k because a company's gone down. In my head, I am a stable and successful trader from sticking to what I know, making calculated decisions in the market with minimal risk. That's the most important thing. So that's the biggest take I can give to anyone watching this. Let's smash Q4 and we'll see what price we're looking at tomorrow morning. Here to finalise the week really. Friday morning, I like to sit here and make an analysis on my week and also plan the next week in my head before I do any kind of weekly outlook on the weekend to kind of look at, okay, if we close like we're looking like right now, then this could be the thing for next week. If not, and we end up having a big Friday candle, how could this affect the way my analysis is in my head? So already that gives me a head start on the weekend. I'm going to start with EU because there was no trades this week on EU. As I said, didn't want to see the week start bullish if we were going to go up without taking previous weekly low, which was here. This buy probably caught a lot of people out because there was just no liquidity for it to carry up. And that would be a technical strategy trade on the way that I trade, but I knew that that wasn't good enough. Goes to show as well, not taking that bullish engulfing candle, which technically is a confirmation, just proves that I can still make good decisions. Because you got to think, if I was trying to sell this and then we just get that buy confirmation that we are heading up, then in my head, if I'm a noob trader, I'm programmed to take this buy. Whereas I knew that there wasn't enough liquidity. So the plan of the week is so important because you don't get enticed that way. You don't sit there and go, oh, maybe I'm going to take this buy because I was waiting for the upside to start the week to reject. Monday did that, Tuesday did this. And really that was the sign there that Tuesday was looking very weak. And it only took Wednesday to head down. We saw a break of structure. We saw a lower high. Break and change of structure significant. And I've been speaking about this liquidity since the start of the week. Price has magnetised towards that yesterday. Nice candle yesterday, similar size to the previous one. Coming straight into this area now. So what I'm expecting, we've somewhat come into liquidity. We've took out this internal. What I would like to see is a pullback, whether that be this fill into next week or this fair value gap, to get better prices for sales next week, really. As long as we can get a good weekly closure and Friday doesn't pull back too much, 100% the weekly candle's looking like that I'm targeting this area for sell. Would be quite a nice move, and we may even get continuations if we start to break this level. Further moves could be coming down. If not, we may sit there for a while and range again. That's my idea on EU. GU here, very, very nice. If we go back to the start of the week, I was looking for a move off the daily fill. That just was a perfect area for a move, really. A few pips below for spread. The idea on the weekly was we've finally seen a bearish engulfing candle with rejection to this high. Makes at least that low a massive target. This low here is my higher time frame position. So any medium time frame plays, I was going to play to that initial low, but we didn't quite get that move yesterday. Got tagged in on Tuesday, really nice, filled perfectly, didn't break the daily FVG we just formed. What you tend to see is a lot of traders might be waiting for this because it's a higher fill, it's a bigger area. The problem with that is when we've got momentum in the market, we like to do daily fills. Sometimes within that Monday, if it does form a small FVG, that tends to get filled the next day and it will just continue down. That's an important thing to note when we're trending, is that we don't always come back into the higher areas. Why? Especially after we had this weekly bearish bias level from around here. Because we could retest it, but because we've already come down through that after failing multiple times, the liquidity's been grabbed from the left and we're just going to run down. Very, very good week. This is the best week we've seen on GU and EU, especially GU, for the last 2 months. It's been really, really nice. Finally getting some good price action back for the end of Q3. Really got tagged into that trade. As I said, I kind of called the top wick of the week to an extent because we're not going to come back now 200 pips only on a Friday. There's not enough high impact news. Then we broke structure. We've confirmed the first lower high after we saw lower highs in here and we really struggled. What this proved over here was just this wasn't enough liquidity. We took out that, and when we started doing this and we broke up here, it kind of confirmed we weren't going to go down. So then it just took more liquidity from the downside to give you that last push. trick loads of people out. I could just tell because it done me a couple of moves there. Got a few losses. Then yesterday, come down really clean, took out this, and now we're having issues at this area. So again, I'm looking for the same thing next week. On the weekly, looking for that strong close on GU to see a pullback next week, further lower highs to test lows and continue down to my higher time frame target. Still got a long way to go. I think we're up about nearly 3R on this trade. We were up nearly 3.5 yesterday, 2.6 today. Just got to let this play out now. But my stop loss is in a great position. That's it. Looking for next week's positions to be continuations of downside now on EU and GU. I'm shocked at how much EU's pulled back, considering we do look quite strong on the euro. But yeah, the pound is looking weak. That's it, guys. Hope you enjoyed. See you next week. Take care. Peace.